Let's take a look at what the final exam is going to look like. There'll be two sections. Section one, shorter answers. Section two, longer answers. What will section one be about? Well, here are the directions. Identify the quote, title, author, description, whatever you have. Doesn't have to be perfect, but give as much information as you can. If you know the author of the quote, definitely give it. If you know the title of the piece, definitely give it. Some pieces don't have individual titles at all, so don't worry about it. But whatever you have, if you have to describe it in some way, give it a shot. So identify the quote. You should be able to do that. And then comment on it briefly. Just say a paragraph, providing the context for its meaning. What am I talking about here? Well, here's one. This is something we read. What would I do with this? It's one of my favorite poems, so it's not a problem. This is the first line of Shelley's Ozymandias. So I'd write that. It's Shelley's Ozymandias. Of course it is. I mean, what else would it be? So I'm halfway there. Pretty good. Then comment on it, providing context for its meaning. What the heck does that mean? I don't know. I mean, does it relate to anything else in the course? Um, kind of mean that. But what about the context within the work itself, within the poem Ozymandias? I met a traveler from an antique land. What's going on here? Comment on it, providing context. Well, what does he do? He's setting up the description of the ancient statue of Ozymandias. That's what most of the poem's about. The long forgotten ancient king. Um, I don't know. Poem. Um, about memory, I think. Sorry. Something like that. I don't know. I think I've done enough for that. Yeah. So it'll be this sort of thing. There'll be a bunch of them. And write something better than what I just wrote, please. I mean, because what I wrote was not so good. Oh, what are some other things? Um, no, that's the only thing I can quote from at the moment. But let me give you a paraphrase. I can't remember it exactly. I'll give you a paraphrase. Excuse me. Um, I don't know about the old saying that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but I'm sure that the friend of my enemy is definitely my enemy. Now, that's not a direct quote, but it's close enough. The heck is that from? Oh, that's from the designated mourner, something that Jack says. And by the way, the playwright here is Wallace Shawn or Wally Shawn. But, designated mourner, that's what it is. Again, it's not an exact quote. Everything that's in the exam will be an exact quote, but I'm just paraphrasing here. Um, yeah, something that Jack says. This is something that Jack says when he's talking about his friends who are well to do liberals who have sympathy for and are on the side of revolution and on the side of the poor, the people that are called by Howard the dirt eaters, where he realizes that he despises his so-called friends because they are all on the side of the people who want to kill him. It's a very challenging thought there, and I don't know what to make of it really. I mean, on one hand, Jack is just being very honest with himself about what he thinks, and one wonders if he's thinking straight. But that's the idea, because there's a big element of class conflict and class oppression in the designated mourner, among other things. So just this is just to give you an idea of what that first section is really going to be about. I'm trying to think of another quote that I could. Uh, I don't know, something like. Heaven and earth are not benevolent. They treat the myriad creatures like straw dogs. Myriad, by the way, is the ancient Greek for 10,000. I think that's pronounced myriad. It sounds better than myriad. It's myriad. Um, it means 10,000. It just means many. The many. The very many. Because for the Greeks, that was a big number. I mean, they could hardly imagine more than 10,000 of anything being together, of anything. So it just means the many. Heaven and earth are not benevolent. They treat the myriad creatures like straw dogs. That is from the Tao Te Ching, man. And man, is that great. Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu. Is that who wrote it? No one knows who wrote it, but that's who's traditionally. The Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. Yeah, I mean, or whatever you got, right? So yeah, it's one of my favorite quotes from the Tao Te Ching. I mean, what does it mean? Can you establish context? I mean, I don't know. I think that. I mean, it goes on to say that the sages are not benevolent. They treat the people like straw dogs, which is this really kind of challenging idea that we're all just these insignificant things. The straw dog is the little toy that's given to children at festivals. It costs a penny and made out of straw animals, and then when the festival is over, is thrown into the fire. We're treated by nature as insignificant. We don't mean anything. We don't have any. We don't count. The world is not set up to take care of us. We have to take care of ourselves, I guess. I don't know. That's how I would suggest its context and meaning. But whatever you got. So yeah, that's the first section. First section will consist of a bunch of quotes from the things that we read, and I got to say these quotes are not random quotes. I mean, they're quotes that I think are so essential and indicative of the work as a whole that it's not like I'm trying to do a gotcha thing. I'm not going to choose quotes that I think are obscure. I'm going to choose quotes that I think anybody who's familiar with the work would recognize as being from the work. I mean, how could you know Shelley's poem Ozymandias without recognizing that fame? I met a traveler from an antique land. And of course, I'd like you to review, if you can, the film you watched at the very beginning of the course, where that guy with no arms and legs actually recites this line. So that'll be the first section. There'll be a bunch of quotes. I'd like you to identify them, and I'd like you to comment on them, and comment them in such a way that you provide context for their meaning, and you explain their meaning, and whatever you got in that respect, I'd like to hear. Section two. Section two will be essay questions. say choose two. Eh, you know what? How about one? You know what? Two. Yeah, you got time. You know, it'll either be one or two. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about it. But you'll definitely have a choice. There'll be a bunch of questions. I don't know. You know what? How about something better? How about something like this? You know, something like that, right? Where you actually write an essay explaining how the title of the designated mortar actually applies to the play as a whole. That would not be a bad question. Or how about something like this? Mm, maybe I'll just ask you to provide an interpretation of that film. What else? I mean, um, man, these are all essays that need to be 500 words. That's a little bit, I don't know, a little bit crude the way I put it, but I think that the significance of knowledge is a central theme in A Canticle for Leibowitz. Something like that, right? What else did we read? Oh, okay. So you get an idea, right? These are just throwaway little essay questions. Um, so you'll get in section two, there will be, I'm sorry, either one or two. I don't know. I can't decide right now. Um, so it'll be one or it'll be two. I'm not sure. I'll have to think about it. But you'll have a whole bunch, maybe four or five or six to choose from. You don't have to answer them all. You just pick the one or the two that you want to write about and write an essay. It has to be 500 words. So that'll be the second part. So, first part again, identify the quote, write a brief, like one paragraph comment on its meaning. And then section two, you'll choose from a variety of essay questions, choose one, probably one, to write a 500 word essay on. We'll make it one. That's fine. One. Yes. All right. So maybe I'll have 3 or 4 questions. So what does that mean? It means that you don't have to write about everything. You'll just write about one thing that you want. But, you don't know what's going to actually be um, there. So that's going to be the final exam. It's like a serious thing. You really have to have some familiarity with the text to pass it. I mean, you have, especially the first part. You have to have enough familiarity with the text to recognize really representative key quotes. I mean, you don't even have to know the quote. It'll just sound like, um, something from the book. If you've read the parable of the sower and you see, what's it? What does she say? What is this? Wait, what is the actual quote? I'm sorry, I gotta know. I know I'm getting it wrong. To take root among the stars. I'm sorry. I should have known that. It's like the best line in the whole thing. Much more poetic. I mean, if you see that and you've read the parable of the sower, you know it's from the parable of the sower, right? You don't have to have had that line memorized. It's just such a big part of that book, or so indicative of the Earthseed religion or Lauren Olamina's thinking in that. So, yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, if you're familiar with the book, familiar with the work, you will definitely, the the quote, the brief quote that's up there will ring a bell. If you're not familiar with it, it won't. And then you'll have, a choice of maybe 3 or 4 different essay questions to write a long essay on, and that's it.